Good afternoon, everyone. Technologists, creatives, entrepreneurs. Welcome to the afternoon part of our X conference today. So today's afternoon we'll be talking about generative AI, its real uses, its practical applications in industry. My name is Rujia Wang. I lead the Customer Experience Product and Design service line at Thoughtworks globally. I'm excited to be your moderator today, and we have a very interesting panel. Just very quickly about our topic. Imagining a world where technology is our creative partner. Technology is thinking with us. It's doing with us. It's even teaching us. That was a world that I didn't think was possible, probably just half a year ago. But that is the world that we live in today. And so that will be the topic of our discussion panel. I'd like to introduce our honored panelists. We have Stephanie Tong. She is the Director of Wealth Management, User Research and Service Design at Credit Suisse, which is now a UBS group. She's had over 17 years of experience in the financial services industry. And I also hear she really likes using Lego in her work. So it's something you can talk to her about after the panel. So she uses that for actually solving business problems. And next we have Professor Hailiang Chen. He is the director of the AI Research Institute at the University of Hong Kong. So he is the real AI expert here, deep in the technology. He studied AI, machine learning, social networks, which is very interesting. So putting it into context, he studies things like how does fake news affect stock prices? How should investors find startups through their social networks? These are some of the academic papers that he's published. So it's not just very deep in the technology. It's actually more about its applications to the real world. Our third panelist, we have Willy Vu. Willy Vu, he is the head of the AWS Enterprise Solutions Architecture in Hong Kong. He's had over 20 years across multiple industries, so working across financial services, telecommunications, IT industry, helping companies with their technology transformation. And last but not least, we have Wang. She is the Senior Director of Supply Chain at Estée Lauder, one of the biggest manufacturers and retailers of skincare and cosmetics globally. And she leads that team across the Asia Pacific. So that's very complex business. She has over 27 years of experience across the whole end-to-end retail value chain. So she has a lot of experience to share with us today. Please welcome our panelists. So first, our panelists bring a lot of diverse experiences, some very deep in their industries and some very wide, looking across multiple industries from the vantage points of academia and from technology. What I want each panelist to introduce today, tell us a bit about their story. What are your interactions so far where you have been using generative AI in your work? And tell us a bit more about these particular use cases that you're working on. So maybe I'll hand over to Stephanie first.
So for myself, because I work in the design team within the bank, I spend a lot of time with my users, well, of course, our clients, and my main users are the relationship managers and the investment consultants within the wealth management arm. So the very, very problem that we are trying to solve right now, so the daily job involves reading a lot of news, a lot of research papers about sectors, about what's happening with Russia, all these things they're supposed to know about it before the market hits at 9:30. The client will come, tell me something about it, what's happening to my portfolio. They need to sound very collected and calm and give advice. But it's not easy because they don't have enough time in the day to know what's happening around the world. So we're experimenting now within a very controlled set of information that our research specialists produce ourselves, and to help the relationship managers to answer questions quickly. When the customer is on the call, you need an answer in 3 seconds, right? So that's the small problem, but it will have a really big impact on them, will save them so much time. So that's the first bit that we're trying with at the moment.
What about Professor Chen?
Yeah. So our AI Research Institute, so we primarily focus on generative AI at this moment because it's hot. So we have been working in this area for more than half a year. And primarily we either do research or we collaborate with the companies. And hopefully in the future we can, deliver consulting services to companies or government agencies. We are working on roughly 7 to 8 projects in different industries. So we do research such as comparing performance of ChatGPT with Google search. We collaborate with a company in digital marketing agency in Hong Kong in terms of producing marketing content automatically. We also try to explore applications in financial industry, such as generating financial analyst reports automatically, and some other industries. So we are trying to explore and do some R&D. And we think the technology can be applied in many different industries. Although the domain knowledge might be different, we may use different type of data, but the technology seems to be applicable in many different industries. Yeah.
Don't leave us hanging. Which one performs better, ChatGPT or Google?
Well, short answer is performance is similar, but you save a lot of time using ChatGPT. Yeah.
Don't forget to try AWS though. Yes, so I'm Willie from AWS. So our parent company, Amazon, has been using AI/ML technology for over 25 years. And for AWS, we released a platform called SageMaker since 2017. So right now we have over 100,000 customers worldwide using that platform to help them to train, to test, and deploy their AI/ML model. So lately, of course, generative AI kind of stormed the whole market. Everyone that we talk to, they want to have something in the system, go live with. And we have seen really successful cases already live, especially in the text-to-image generation, ad tech, sales and marketing, and also text-to-text generation, summarization, more internal use when they need to take the system to public-facing systems. They found challenges from compliance risks, and Rachel probably talk about. And in the development space, we have a code whisperer technology, just like Copilot. And we also make sure the responsible AI aspect of it, make sure harmful content or any IP infringement risks will flush it out and have referenceable links so that you know what type of open source technology you're referring to. So you have a choice, and we also provide security scanning so that make sure your code will be you can use and increase your proficiency in terms of development, but yet in a safe environment to do that.
Okay, from a retail perspective, I think retail is very practical. It's not as sexy as what Willie or Stephanie's area. That in terms of adoptions for us, it's quite practical. So in my previous lives, for example, like in Sephora or in Avery Dennison, or we have actually applied AI in areas such as like auto replenishment, where, for example, in China, we have at least 4 different DCs. How can we balance the stock, to make sure it delivers to all the stores, in the most the cost-efficient way, and also balances the inventory, so that it improves our overall P&L, with less inventory pressure. Also, at the same time, we have done things like for HR, particularly, because I was the IT director before in Sephora. For HR, we will be doing knowledge-based chatbot, trying to reduce the workload from the HR team on a lot of the daily questions that the staff may be asking the HR team. I mean, you cannot imagine how many questions actually go to HR asking for the same thing again and again. So maybe from an internal knowledge-based perspective, this kind of chatbot can also be applied in order to reduce the workload from the HR team and also improve the workforce efficiency. In terms of like e-commerce, I have also done the data science or the AI in terms of how do we on the fly, as people are purchasing on the e-commerce platform, we immediately analyze the pattern of how they browse the goods and immediately suggest what could be the next product that they might be interested in, so that we could actually add more purchases into the cart and ideally close the deal. In my current job in Estee Lauder, apart from like retailing, we are also I'm also picking up, actually learning a lot more from manufacturing, which is even more complex than retail, where we actually look at the supply from all over the world, because goods are actually coming from like Europe, from the US, or from somewhere in Asia, into like a hub, and then from the hub we have to deliver to the B2B customer and the B2C customers. So that become a lot more complexity that we will be applying AI in terms of network optimization perspective. And in one of my recent projects, because we have just opened up actually our very first factory in APAC for Estee Lauder in Japan. We just went live last week actually. So we are building up a nerve center for the factory itself. What it does is it collects every data point from all the machines in the factory, like from the warehouse, from the compounding area, from the F&A. So it actually monitors all the machines. Usually there's handshakes between the different machines, and you need to have people actually say, I've done this, and then could you please do the next step. But with the systems, we can actually monitor all the data points. What machine is running, has it stopped? And when it stopped, maybe this is the time that it should be passed to the next department, right? So this is the kind of things that we are also looking at, making use of AI, to help us to monitor and actually make sure the production is more efficient. And if there is any problems with the machine, we can also be alert early in the game. So that's the kind of application that we have been looking at using AI as well. Thank you.
How can you say that's not sexy? Supply chains are sexy. Hashtag. We should. It sounds like there's also a lot of incredible business value from doing something on that end as well. We talked about a bit about some different use cases already. I think from your vantage points across, sitting across multiple industries really, and across academia, Professor Chen, if you could talk about what kind of problems, and based on the maturity of the technology today, what sort of problems are we best suited to solve with generative AI right now? What advice would you give to people?
Oh, yeah. So I think Rachel has already mentioned in her talk that finding information search is going to be transformed by generative AI. So, and you can notice that all the major search engines are trying to revamp their tools, their technology, try to integrate both search and chat, right? So search industry, definitely search industry for individual users and also enterprise knowledge management systems, right? Because every company has a lot of data in different format, PDF, articles, right? So database, things like that. Every company needs a system to manage those knowledge so that their workers, employees, can easily look for information, right? Traditionally, we have to do it in a search base, so you input some keywords, and then you have to read all those relevant results by yourself, and that takes a lot of time. But if you have a chatbot, then you can just ask a question and you will get the answer, assuming the answer are correct, right? So that should save your efficiency. And then similarly, another industry that I mentioned is digital marketing. Why marketing is a good use case for generative AI? I think citing from Deloitte, they did some study, and I think they summarized very well. So basically, for anything that the generation effort is significant, while the validation effort is low, then that's a good use case. So why is that? So if we take generating text search ads, like for Google, as an example, traditionally it takes significant effort to generate a creative ad, right? But to validate whether the generated ad is good or not, it's relatively easy because you can just ask any individual consumer to read the text ad and tell you whether the ad is good or not, right? So that cost is very low. So basically in digital marketing, especially generating text ads, this is a good use case for generative AI because traditionally generating those ads takes a lot of effort, while validating whether the generated ads is good or not the cost is very low. And if you compare this use case with another similar use case, such as the legal applications using generative AI, you can use ChatGPT or other large language models to generate a contract, legal contract, right? Traditionally, definitely the generation effort is high again. The validation effort is actually also quite high, right? Because for normal people like us or who is not working in the legal industry, who do not have law training, we probably won't be able to tell or is 100% sure that whether a legal contract generated by a large language model is actually 100% accurate or not, right? You still need a legal expert to validate that whether the content is good or not. So if you compare this use case with digital marketing, like generating text ads, you will realize that legal contract, it takes significant effort to generate. It also takes reasonable high amount of effort to validate, right? So then if you comparing between those two use cases, we can conclude that digital marketing ads generation is relatively speaking a better use case for a large language model. Here, better means that it's easier to implement successfully. Of course, there has been huge efforts in legal industry try to transform the industry. I'm not saying that you cannot use large language model to generate legal contract. I'm just saying, relatively speaking, it's more difficult. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting model. So practically, if we have a lot of use cases, where we could start first is identifying where the generation effort is high and validation effort is low, or ease of validation is low. Okay, that's a great model.
Yeah, adding to Dr. Chen's use case about ad generation, I just saw this week we helped one of the customers in Taiwan. They are ag tech provider, and they help customers. For example, they have manufacturers in China. They have a new fashion line coming out, and they want to promote it. The traditional way is they need to take a snapshot of the garment or find someone to wear it and send the photo over to overseas and Taiwan, and then they need to create a campaign for it. But it's very static. It's not going to have really high marketing value using the stock images like that. So through generative AI, they are able to generate images and also collaborate with a local KOL to be able to put their image with the garment, putting on their body with different backgrounds, different styles, so that they can push out marketing campaign even earlier than the goods arrive, if you will. So they can test the market earlier to see if there's really a huge market and whether they should increase their order or not. So that's a really fascinating and real use case that is live already. And for other use cases for text generation, knowledge-based type of scenarios, of course, that's lots of customers are doing it. But right now we saw lots of them are more for internal use, generating knowledge for internal, like relationship manager in banks. They can have better knowledge to be able to talk to customers. But for external use, customer facing is very challenging. This month, a customer told me they are about to release a customer facing Q&A type of chatbot app to external customers, and they are blocked by their legal and compliance unit because where's the guardrail? I think Andy talked about the risks and how do you make sure there's no harmful content going out. Lots of model providers say they have responsible AI in place to stop those type of harmful content, but still only to a certain extent. And they train their model with extensive knowledge and information from the internet. You don't really know whether that's valid or not. Let alone you need the model to perform in your own business context. So the guardrail is very important from the content itself, the knowledge itself, how do you govern it? You need a very good system to do that. And also, how do you make sure the model won't drift? There's just recent news about the LLM models. The more you use it, the more it drifts away. And now even ChatGPT, for example, they cannot do simple math because the data drifting is so important, so extensive. And there's lots of guardrail, and I think the exciting place we should experiment, but there are lots of things we still need to explore.
Yeah, when we talked about use cases like digital marketing, if you get a bit of hallucination in your generative AI model, it's probably okay. The cost of doing that is a bit lower, right? But if you get that in your financial services advice, if you ask ChatGPT about the valuation of a company, it could tell you that it's $14 billion, but it's just completely made up. And you have to, the cost of getting that wrong is way higher. Or say in the supply chain, if there's a handoff that shouldn't have been done, the cost of getting that wrong is way higher. What are some of the challenges, I guess, from Wanda and from Stephanie that you've encountered while incorporating that into your enterprise context of really using it in your core business? Perhaps Wanda, I'll hand over to you.
Sure. I think the biggest challenge will be what data you are going to use to train the model. I think this is the first challenge. Very often, all the business user, they come to me, come to IT and say, I wanted, to use AI, I wanted to use optimization, I want to use it in this way to, remove some of the manual processes or to make things faster, that they can process a larger sets of data, right? Which is all good. But when we started working on it, something very simple as, I remember I worked on a project before, which is to use AI to try and do financial forecasting for budgeting, because that is something that really takes a long time. Usually you have your budgeting cycle starting maybe in August, you won't finish it until November. You have to liaise with finance, you have to liaise with the brands, you have to liaise with every single department, bottoms up, top down, that is a very, very long process. So we're thinking, wouldn't it be a really good idea if we could, get the system to first do the forecast for us and provide like a draft, and then, and then we can review it, together, just using all the data points to do the bottoms up and then top down. It took us almost half a year just to try and build like a small program to start off with, mainly because a lot of the data points that the business use, they are not all of them are structural data that you can find from your existing systems. A lot of them is from either people's experience, or they keep in a spreadsheets, or they get it from certain sources that are not integrated into your system, and they are so ad hoc. So in that sense, all this unstructured data is very difficult to get, and also some of the thought processes from the people. How are we going to implement that into the system is also quite difficult. So I think it's garbage in, garbage out. How good the model is. It depends on the data that you put in. And also maybe almost every, like what Willie mentioned, every 3 months, 6 months, we have to do the tweaking. We have to feed in maybe data into it again and let it learn again, so that it won't deviate too much. So we at that point, it is actually taking quite a lot of time, just to teach the system to make sure that it is getting the right information, is providing us the right output, is not deviating when things change, when the patterns actually shift. So there's a constant tweaking that you have to do.
Thanks, Wanda. What about you, Stephanie, in actually implementing it in the enterprise? What are the challenges that you've encountered?
So the practical side of things is definitely data as well. As we all know, in all the banks, even just a simple thing, this department called bonds, this department called fixed income as bonds. Just the aggregation of different data sources to answer one simple question is already hard enough in human life. But to get all the data definition the same in order to answer the question is really, really, really difficult at the moment. And when we go out to the relationship managers, hey, this is a thing that can you try and use it? What kind of questions will you actually ask this amazing search that we are trying this with you? So one key thing is they haven't even touched the trying. It's where does your data come from? What is the valuation date? So how they trust the data source, how referenceable is it? If there's a question that they ask, who is the human that will be able to help them at the end of the day? It's still need to get through that. And then the third thing is, just imagine all the data is fine and then everything is right, is legal and compliance as well. We have to really get them from day one. The first question that they'll ask, like, who is accountable for this advice here? I can't say the developer sitting on level 89. I can't say that. Who is accountable for the advice that at the end of the day, the RM, relationship manager, give to the client? At the end of the day, it's the RM that will take the accountability, but that's why she is questioning a lot about the data sources, and we need to help build that trust with the data that answers that we're trying to provide to them.
Yeah, when you said, bond to this department means very differently to a bond to this other department and then to the bond that the model understands. It reminds me of that picture of describe a salmon swimming upstream, and the picture came back of not the salmon, the fish, like the actual looking like a fish. It was the salmon from a sushi restaurant. And this sushi salmon was swimming upstream, and it's because the model understands, and in the data that feeds the model, most of the time that they understand salmon, they are thinking about the salmon in the context of the sushi. So it's very, we talked about very much the data that comes in the understanding of the data, how to actually incorporate those human thinking and processes into that data, and then compliance as the major challenges. Perhaps, Professor Chen, from an academic and research scientific perspective, can you talk about how to resolve some of these challenges? What are some of the ways that you've seen?
Yeah, I guess the data, we collaborate with this digital marketing company. The company has a reasonable amount of data. We thought that it was enough, and actually in the end it turns out it's not enough. So basically we try to teach the large language model to either score a text ad, like basically give a score to the quality of the ad. So we use past performance data to fine tune this model, right? But then suddenly we realize that all the ads in the company's database are all the relatively good ads, actually, right? But you don't see the bad ads that violate, for example, Google's ad policy, right? So we need to kind of script and use GPT to create such bad examples, right? So that we have both good examples and bad examples to feed into the model, right? So I guess in practice there are a lot of engineering issues, and sometimes the data are available, sometimes the data are not available, right? Then that can be an issue. And we have we have mentioned a lot about the hallucinations, this kind of thing. And in the essence, I still think that the model hallucinates just because it doesn't see this phenomenon, or it doesn't have this knowledge haven't acquired the knowledge yet, right? So a direct way to address that is actually to kind of infuse the knowledge into the model, let the model learn, right? That seems to be a practical solution to kind of alleviate this hallucinating issue, not necessarily completely addressing it. So in practice, we try a lot to teach the model new knowledge, or the relevant knowledge that we are interested in letting the model to generate, right? So there are some ways to do it. Of course, after you teach enough knowledge, it's still hallucinating or still not behaving the way that you want, right? Then there's a famous technique of reinforcement learning with human feedback, right? So you engage human kind of coders, and then let the model to generate different types of completion or response, and then you ask human coders to kind of label the completion, and of course there are more sophisticated methods so that you automate this process. You have a reward model, things like that. But the purpose is try to regulate the model so that the model behave in a way or towards the direction that you want the model to behave, right? So there could be some things done in this area, right? Of course, in the end, whether the model is safe enough to go live, to pass the legal compliance, that's really, right? So every company has their own standards. Some are more linear, more aggressive, right? Some probably are more conservative, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can add to that. I think data is an essential part, where the quality of data, of course, but also security of it. Your data will be the secret source, and you want to safeguard it so that it won't go back and feed the LLM model to train the public model. You want to have a secure environment so that your data is within your own environment, and also the model being trained is yours, not publicly available. So that's another very important thing. And you should really bring the model to your data rather than the other way around, because again, it's your intellectual property. You want to retain it to maintain or create your business advantage. I think that's very important about the data part. And I think when we extend and then know more about the technology, it will evolve into different type of models. You may not need to have a very big model. There's a well-known paper called Chinchilla paper from Stanford and Berkeley. And what they said is, given a fixed cost to train a model, how large should your data, how large should your parameters? It should be proportion. So if you have a large amount of data going in, if you have a small number of parameters, doesn't make sense. But if you have a big number of parameters, but the data going in is very small, it doesn't make sense either. It won't give you a very accurate prediction or summarization. So if you want to create your business advantage, you really need to look at the right model to use. It may not be 100 billion parameters would be a good fit for you because you need to fine-tune it. So the cost of training that model or fine-tuning that model, you need to have the cost control as well as pick the right model to begin with. There are lots of commercial model out there, and also open source model out there, so you can choose with.
Talking about these aspects, I think these concepts are very new to people, definitely in teams that I've worked in and that I've led. I really wanted to know, as leaders of your respective functions and business units, how do you actually set up your teams and foster an environment where they can learn that sort of knowledge to be able to leverage generative AI in their work? Because what Professor Chan is talking about, what Willie was talking about around the data and the models, these are very new concepts to a team that I lead, which is mostly product managers and designers. But to be able to leverage generative AI to solve business problems, I think they need to have that level of understanding as well, some base level of understanding. How do you really set up your teams for that? Wanda?
So I work in different companies, so I see there are certain companies which is more ready for this kind of generative AI, and some company, or even agile, some companies not so ready yet. For company that I've worked with who probably can adopt it better, they probably would have some in-house engineer already that they would have experience in this area, and then they also have very clear product owner within the business and also within IT, like working as a pair, as a partner, in order to always staying on top of what they are looking for. And then from a IT partner, we are also trying to find the right technology to help them to realize what they're trying to do. So that would be a more mature company, where they know that it's important that the company need to stay agile, need to be able to adopt to new technology. so that they already have experience in that, and the user will not be moaning and groaning about, being always need to spend a lot of time working with IT on this and that, because that is the biggest problem, actually. None of the user wanted to actually be responsible for running a project, because they believe I come to IT, I talk to you, and you will just help me to make it happen, right? They don't really expect actually the time that they need to invest together with the IT people, is equally high, like even in testing, right? So I think it is that mindset and the setup within the company that the HR or the CEO, they have to drive in order to make sure not just IT, but actually the business user are also equally taking the lead in that perspective. So I think that is like important. And now I think a lot of companies also running a lot of hackathon or innovative idea. So they will, at a half-yearly basis or quarterly basis, they will internally run some campaign where any people, any like staff can actually form a small team, come up with their own idea. We provide them with some funding. They come up with a good solution. We have a panel of judges to make sure, which one get the funding to try out the ideas. I think that kind of setup is also very good at encouraging the team and the company. It's not just within the team, but it's the whole company. They are all aware of the importance of keeping themselves ahead of technology and being innovative. It's not just IT, but it's actually more than IT.
So technologists and business as equal partners in integrated teams throughout the process rather than in a handoff, and also not just the IT, beyond IT to the whole business to understand generative AI and other technologies. What about you, Stephanie?
So we also have, at the corporate level, we always have those hackathons and things. Again, at a more and within the team level, like every 2 weeks, we have like a dedicated hour. We call it design plunge, where we will just raise any topic. It's fine, but one person lead the learning for the rest of the team. So that's one thing we intentionally try to bring it in. We started during the pandemic times as well, because we're like a zombie at home. We need to learn something new. So we have dedicated time to learn something which is not what we are working on. The other bit is that cross-functional thing again. Like one of my thing is for every user interview, I always want an engineer who knows nothing about this topic to come in, to sit in, to listen, and you have to ask one question. I don't care how dumb the question is, you must ask one question to the user in that user interview session. So sometimes even the user come down to the developers and they get to the point that they know exactly which developer I should ask for this question. So that kind of close relationship really helps to build a mutual learning between like business domain and the technology side as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I'm thinking, in my team, I'm thinking about how to bring possibly data scientists should be part of the product and design team as well. They're actually probably not a different function. And we work in an integrated team throughout the process and think about how we do AI and everything, at least pilot and test it out and do that comparison of what it means to use generative AI. So, we were talking about before, synthetic users, so fake users. Should we use fake users in user research? Generative AI can generate interviews and results and synthesis in just seconds. How does that perform compared to real user research? Can we make a decision from the basis of real knowledge that we've tested ourselves? So I really ask the teams to do, just try AI in everything. Generative AI, try it, compare it to the traditional approach as well. I just realized that time is really flowing. We only have like 2 minutes left, so I'm going to ask the last question. What are you most excited about when you're thinking about the future with generative AI? I guess we'll go from Wanda all the way.
I think most exciting is if I can, if I don't have to monitor everything and they can do everything for me, then I can go on holiday. Because I think we have this. We actually spend a lot of time doing a lot of things which how should I say it, which we could have spent our time better. I mean, if we could free ourselves up on a lot of the mundane job. So I think if generative AI can come in, really help me. Let's say I've got like 3,800 emails sitting on my mailbox that hasn't read, any one of them. If it can read through every single email and then tell me, hey, this is a summary of, what I've sucked out from all this email, and this is what you should do and what you should follow up, I think that's great.
That's great. That would be great. For me, I think more exciting is generative AI probably will create really personal experience for everyone. So let you be a developer, a business user, IT or not. I think it will help you to take the mundane work out of your way and be able to let you have more time to focus on innovation.
Yeah. So since our research institute mainly focus on large language model at this moment, I want to kind of explain the potential of large language model in a way that's kind of, hopefully it's intuitive. So basically now we have a technology, we have a machine that has a human level language understanding capability, right? Okay, but this machine can perform the task of anything related with language much more efficiently. It stands by 24/7, all right? It's really a matter of how you utilize this machine. And that kind of ideas of how to use this is only limited by imagination.
For me, my very little humble wish is that there's so many people in the organization. If I can have this one thing, that who do I talk to for this in order to make a decision? Even just solve me that simple one thing, it will save me a lot of time already.
I think the who to talk to is something that I'm also really excited about, the potential to be able to get advice from, I don't know, Steve Jobs about product and design. Could be something that I could do now with this level of technology, and the ability to really use artificial intelligence to augment human intelligence so that I can focus on the things that humans do really, really well. So thank you so much for joining our panel today. It was great to hear your stories and diverse perspectives, and we hope everyone enjoyed the panel. Feel free to stick around and talk to our panelists after. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.